My name's Patrick Doran. I'm from the NC Department of Information Technology, and I do work for the DoT. That's my primary customer. Today, I want to talk to you about two Microsoft 365 products. Um, One is Excel. Uh, I'm guessing most of y'all at least are familiar with it. And the other one is Microsoft Power Automate, which, based on the poll, it's like about 2/3 of you maybe haven't used it yet. So we'll give you a kind of an overview of what that is, and we'll just get into the slides. A little bit about myself. I've been with the state for 15 years. Really like what I do for IT. I'm doing SharePoint and Microsoft 365 for more than a decade. Power Automate for about 4 years. I remember Excel on floppy disk. Like, I am that old. My tween daughter calls it the late 1900s, and I feel insulted by that, but it's real and true. Um, so, this is who I am. I've got a staff of a dozen folks who work under me and do awesome work with SharePoint, the web, Power Automate, things like that. Super lucky. Uh, Feel very fortunate to be here. All right. So, automation. We all work for government. I'm guessing most of y'all are the state, but there may be some local and county folks. Thank you if that's where you're from. We're all trying to be stewards of the taxpayer dollar. Power Automate is a tool that can help us do that. It can take our repetitive tasks and um, run them for us. And hey, Belinda, I'll answer your question later. I see it about VB. That caught my eye. Um, so when I think about automation as like a government worker, I think about, like, all right, I'm going to be here for 30 years. 15 down, 15 more to go. Um, what can I do with this time? And my favorite way to view it is, if I can save a minute every day, that's 8 days of my time over the career. Uh, I can do something. I can do something in 8 days. So what I can automate, I should. And um, what we'll talk about today are some tools to do that. All right. First one is Excel Online. Based on the polling, looks like most of y'all have at least used regular Excel on the desktop. I did not see any Gen Z folks who only used Google Sheets. My kids in their public school, it's only Google Sheets, no Microsoft. Excel Online is Microsoft Excel in the browser. Um, so Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge. Um, if you're an employee of the state and you've got a Microsoft 365 license, which means you have Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, you probably have access to Excel Online. Um, it's come a long way in the last few years. It doesn't do everything that Excel installed on your machine does, but it does a whole lot. And for a government employee, it's a super powerful tool. Like, for me, it's my calculator. I compare things with it. It do all sorts of math. It holds my thoughts for me. If I've got a lot of ideas, I just copy and paste it into Excel or type it into Excel. It's super reliable. Um, it can hold a ton of data. I know a lot of nerds will say Excel is not a database. It kind of is. If it solves the data problem for you. It's also, universal almost. Like, you're fairly good chance if you send an Excel file to, another government employee or another, maybe a consultant or a vendor you work with, they can open it. It's already compatible. So it solves all of these problems. Also, there's a ton of training on it there. Like, you can, Google your way out of most Excel holes. What we'll talk about today is that it works well with Microsoft Power Automate. They're both made by Microsoft. They're both aware of each other. And so we'll get into that soon. And just as a preface, like, we're going to do slides for a few minutes, and then we're just doing demos after that. We're going to walk through a few examples of using these tools together, because, slides are fun, but only so fun. All right. I saw this on Instagram this morning, and it was perfectly timed. It totally is real in every way. So many jobs are like, here are all the many things that you're going to do. Doesn't matter the technology. Here is your job description. Here are all these things. Uh, it's Excel. Like that's a tool you're going to use. And Excel Online, if you haven't explored it, I encourage you to do that because it's in the browser. You might already be in the browser. It's also available in Microsoft Teams, so you might already be in there. It's pretty slick, unless you're doing really, really complicated pivot table things. More likely than not, Excel Online can do the job for you. They'll expect the chat to be like filled with people like, oh, you can only do it in Excel on the desktop, but try Excel Online. It's good. But yeah. All right, let's keep moving. All right, so what is Power Automate? Power Automate is a Microsoft tool that you are probably already licensed for if you work with the state of North Carolina. So as part of your Microsoft 365 subscription, it is there for you. It is very colorful, a lot of greens and purples and maroons there. It is a visual way to see tasks and automate them. And it's one of the ways you can do that is through the browser, through Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge. You could like go in there right now and see it. And I'll share a slide on how to do that. And it kind of covers the span of Microsoft calls it like citizen developer, but like, a non-programmer gives them some capability. But it also, if you are a coder, if that is your background, or if IT is your background, super powerful. It does data transformation. It connects to other services. It can connect unrelated systems together. We've been using it here for NCDOT for a few years, and it's solved a whole bunch of problems for us. I use it, as a knowledge worker, as a professional, to automate my repetitive tasks, and that's what I want to focus on with this session today. Is not can you build a new application or a new system with it, which you can, but more, can you solve a problem for you? Like going back to that slide, like how many minutes over a career you can save. Power Automate is a tool that can help you do that. And it comes with Microsoft 365. You can connect it to many of the products that are already there. So Teams, OneDrive, Outlook, Power BI, SharePoint, things like that. So it just like out of the box, it just comes with those sort of capabilities. Today, we're really talking about using Excel and Power Automate together, because I think Excel is a tool that hopefully just about everyone on the call can relate to and understand, and Power Automate is maybe that next step. So, and all these slides and this video will be shared with everyone. I know there's a whole bunch of words on here. Power Automate, the majority of the time I've used it, it's through the desktop browser. There is an installed desktop application which does a little bit different than what we're talking about today. So today we're just focusing on the version that works in Chrome or Microsoft Edge. It's tied to your Microsoft account here at work, which means, as long as you're employed with the government and your account's there, the automations that you create, the Power Automate flows that you make will be there for you. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. And just like Excel Online, super well documented online, it's really nice to be able to do a quick search, Google, Bing, whatever you're using, and get an answer to it. So the nice part about just like Excel, we solve all sorts of problems in government, but we're probably not the first ones to solve, like, how to merge two numbers together, or how to transform data, or how to do a task. Like someone else has done it and written about it online. And how do you get to both of these tools? There are a myriad of ways, but from your browser, office.com, and then log in. If you work for the state, you're going to log in with your state credentials, whatever your whatever you would log into email or webmail with. If you're in county or local government, it might be different. But if you see the Power Automate and the Excel icons there, that means you should you should be able to get it as long as your licensing is set up. Most of y'all with the state will have this licensing already set. All right. Want to talk about something real quick before we move into demos, because we're getting close to that. Here we are, government employees doing work for folks, trying to be the stewards of the taxpayer dollar. With Power Automate, you could certainly build some very cool tools that solve real problems. Someone put me in a little weird together mode thing. That's weird. Let's turn that off. No. Does it look like I'm sitting in a chair? See a weird together mode thing. That's strange. Whoever turned that on, if you could turn it off, it's pretty distracting because now I see myself twice.
Yeah, we can see it as well.
All right. Not sure if my screen share is still happening. Can y'all see my slides?
Yeah, we can still see your slides.
You can still see it.
Sweet. All right.
Oh,
All
no.
right, we're rolling with it then. Please don't hit any more random buttons just because they look like they're fun. Let's talk about using Power Automate. You as an employee versus you as part of a team. Your Microsoft Power Automate access is tied to your account, so that's like your Microsoft 365 account. If you leave the organization, everybody, I hope everybody's Powerball numbers come in. I hope they retire. Your workflows, if they're not shared correctly, will disappear. So if you're building an automation for you that helps you in your daily work, which is kind of what we're talking about today, that's cool. Just leave it connected to you or share it with a coworker to cover you, if you're on vacation. If you build something big, like if a common use case is our group has had, a Microsoft Access database since the late 1900s. And we're trying to do something better with that. So we automate it and, someone on your team builds it with Microsoft Power Automate Flow and Excel Online, solves that problem. But if that one person, their Powerball numbers come in and they leave, you might have some trouble accessing it. So if you're building something for everybody, everybody in your team, more than one person, talk to your NCDIT Microsoft 365 person. For NCDOT, that's Ryan Nolan and myself. For your agency, it's different. Your DOA, DHS, all have different each agency has a different subject matter expert. Anyway, to help you set it up in a way that makes it survive for the long term. So, as you're building this, just keep that in mind. Same with OneDrive. Like all those files you upload into OneDrive, if you leave the organization, your supervisor should have access, but you want to make sure everything is set up in a way so that it can survive your retirement. All right, so that's my chat about that. Let's keep moving. So something we'll look at in just a minute, because I'm keeping an eye on the clock here because we got a couple of demos to do. All right, we're making good time here. Just like we've talked about why we're using these together. Your Excel Online files, when you are working with them, more likely than not, they either live in SharePoint Online or OneDrive. You might see them through Teams, but they physically live in one of those two places. And if they're set up right, Power Automate workflows can hit each row, sheet, column in that Excel file. So the analogy I like to use is that Excel is the fuel and Power Automate is the engine that's doing something with it. And over here on the right, this is a screenshot of some of the things that Microsoft Power Automate can do with your Excel Online file. You see like deleting a row, identifying a specific row, getting all your worksheets, or updating a row, which is some powerful stuff. And so these are kind of like the verbs, what you can do with it. And we'll do a demo and we'll look at this more in depth. They're called actions. And I realize a lot of just kind of waving my hands around talking about features I promise I would bring this all together when we start doing these demos. All right. How does the Power Automate workflow start? Generally, one of three ways if you're using it in the browser. One is it can react to a change in the file. And that's that first one there, the automated Cloudflow. That means you've set it to, when you configure it, you have set it to run on a change. So someone adds a new row, they change some data. That action, someone doing that, causes Power Automate workflow to start. So, and we'll do an example of that. Instant Cloudflow, that means there's either a link or a button. There's also a mobile app for Power Automate where you can say, all right, this moment I'm pushing the button, run this automation. And for something, we'll talk about examples of that too. In that scenario, you might be doing a Power Automate workflow for one task. Like I've got tons of data in this sheet and I need to transform it in some way and put it in another Excel file. I could copy and paste it one at a time, or I could use Power Automate to do it on its own, and I can just, drink some coffee and watch. That's an instant Cloudflow. The other one is a scheduled Cloudflow. So, if you've got a TPS report that's due every Monday at 7, and all that data lives in an Excel file somewhere, you can tell Power Automate, like, hey, somebody gets a TPS joke. Hey, you can, Monday at 6:30, extract this data for me, do something with it. So we'll look at those three. Power Automate Desktop, the desktop installed version, it's different. Its use cases are different, so we're not going to cover that today. Generally, you are less likely to be. Oh, there's Lumberg in the chat. You're less likely to be licensed for Power Automate Desktop. Like more often than not, you'll have to talk to your IT folks to get that. So we're just talking about the browser one today. All right. Yep, that's enough chatting. Let's do some demos. We're going to read from an Excel sheet, just kind of the basics. We're going to put some data in it. We're going to use it to send emails, which is cool and powerful and also scary because you never know, you could accidentally email the wrong person. So pay attention when you do that. The last one we'll hopefully do it this time is we'll create worksheets in an Excel file. So, in that scenario, every week you add a new sheet to track something. This is a tool that can automatically add that sheet for you with all the columns. Each of these I'm going to try to build on top of the previous one a little bit. And at the end of this, I'm going to leave you all with a bunch of links that are in the slides and in the video that you can kind of help explore a little bit more. So I'm going to stop sharing and change to a different screen. Cool. All right, I can no longer see the chat, so there's like a booger on my nose. You gotta turn off your mic for me to be able to pick up on that. Here we are. We're looking at Microsoft Power Automate right now, and I'm in Microsoft Edge, but whatever browser your agency tells you to use, the one you should use. It might be Chrome, it might be Edge. It works in Safari, I believe. So if that's what your agency uses, by all means use that. The URL, make.gov.powerautomate.us, that tells you it's the government version. Most of the state agencies run the government version of Microsoft 365. What that means is it has a more rigorous set of standards and certifications it has to go through compared to the private sector. It also means a lot of the new features that the private sector gets in Power Automate, we get those a little bit later. So sometimes we got to wait a little bit longer. So, but this is what it looks like. And I got here by going to office.com, clicking the little, called the waffle menu, and then picking Power Automate from here. There it is. It's the blue one. Well, the blue one with the arrow. And that's how I get there. To get to Excel Online, I also go to office.com. Click Excel. Again, I use that waffle menu. There it is. It's Excel Online. Here's some of my recent documents. Do a lot of Excel, I promise. Here I am. I can just create a blank notebook. That's exciting. Looks like Excel. And that's because it is Excel. And in the URL, I can tell this is saved in my OneDrive. So let's look at that too. Or I can actually see it from here. Yep, there it is. There's my name. Click there. Here's my OneDrive. And I don't think I've added anything to the sheet, so it's not listed here. So by default, Excel Online will save your files to your OneDrive, but it could certainly, you could also use it to access files in SharePoint Online as well. They're both Microsoft products. They're all together. All right. So let's do, and in fact, speaking of that, I put all of my demo files in OneDrive using all the tools. All right. So first one we're going to do, we're going to read data from an Excel file. So I'm going to open my Excel file up. Here it is in Excel Online because I'm still in the browser. See normal Excel things, formulas, formatting, things like that. Got some data in here, rows and columns. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to, for this example, I just want to read one of these rows just to sort of prove you can reach out and get at it. So the first step for that, and this is important enough that I'm going to kind of wave my hands and say this is important if you ever want to use Excel Online and Power Automate together. The one step that I missed is Microsoft Excel, whether it's desktop or Excel Online, has a concept of defining a table. And you'll see that when, generally it's got like stripes in it and little drop downs to sort and filter it. To Excel, that means the data is a little bit more rigid. There aren't like missing rows in between or missing columns or like 5 extra columns at the top. So in order for Microsoft Power Automate to read your Excel Online data, it has to be a table. And luckily that's easy to do. So, because there's a Format as Table button right there. So I'm going to select my table. So there's cell A1, and I'm going to select all the rows, all the columns. I'm going to format it as a table. So I get to pick whatever color here makes me happy. Let's do this one. All right, that formats it as a table. Although I missed some of it. That's weird. All right, we'll go with that for now. Why did it not do the other one? That's okay. All right. Once it's a table, this table design tab will open up here. And I can name my table. So, give it a name. And it's automatically saved. So I called it my demo table. So there it is. So we've got our Excel Online file. It's saved in OneDrive. I've defined a table and I've named the table. So now we've done everything we need to let Power Automate access it. So let's switch over to that tab. All right, here we are. Again, Microsoft Power Automate. I could have gone to office.com to get there, but I had it open already. So let's create a new one. All right. For this one, this is just a one-time thing. I'm going to do instant. I want to tell Power Automate when to run this specifically. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say, how do I want this to run? I'm going to manually trigger it, although you could certainly, there are certainly plenty of other options to do that, but just manual for now. Create. And what this is going to do, it's going to prepare a new Power Automate workflow automation for me. So it kind of gives you this working space to do it. And these rectangles are how that's done. So this is just manual. It means that I'm going to run it. I'm going to explicitly say when to start this automation. And I want to hook it up to the Excel file. So I'm going to hit next step. All right. Here's where it's going to give me some choices. And you'll see a whole bunch of connectors in here, a whole bunch of tools that are in Power Automate's toolbox. And the one I'm looking for is Excel. So I see it right here. All right, and here are my actions, the verbs again. I've got a whole bunch in here that I can use. So let's get a row. Let's do that. Is that what I wanted to do? I think it is. Oh, let's get all the rows. Let's get more than one row. So list rows present in a table. There's that word table again. I'm gonna pick that. All right. So it's added the green box here, green for Excel. Microsoft is color coordinating. And it's going to ask me some questions about it. You know, where is this Excel file? And the good news is that a lot of it is just drop-down choices that you can pick, and it should know, recent stuff you've done. For me, it lists either OneDrive or a whole bunch of SharePoint Online sites that I'm a member of. So for now, I want OneDrive. It's going to ask me for a library, which for most folks in OneDrive, it's just one. I have two for some unknown reason. All right, and now it's going to ask me for the file name. It's going to ask me what it's called. And I remember from OneDrive, it's in my OneDrive account in this all things demo, and it's in this read from an Excel file folder. So this little folder icon here, click on that. And here are all my OneDrive files. There's all things demo, read from an Excel file. And here it is. Here's my Excel file. All right, so looking good. Everything, there's no red lines showing me errors. Now it's going to ask me for the table. We made that table just a minute ago. Let's see if it's in there. There it is, my demo table. Awesome. All right. And this is, the table thing is important because if you're familiar with Excel, you know that one Excel file can have tons of different worksheets. And so Microsoft Power Automate needs a clue. It needs to know, how do I get to the data you want in your Excel file? There are advanced options which let you do a whole lot more, especially about filtering the data. But for now, this is enough. We've said, I want to run this automation, and I want to get all the rows in the table. So let's hit save. Power Automate is going to save it, again, tied to your account, and give you a green bar when it is ready to go. Up here, there's this little beaker icon that says test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that and just manually test it. I'm going to hit my blue test button here. Very first time you do it, it's going to ask you to sign in. Luckily, I already have signed in. Again, that's just with your work Microsoft account. And then finally, it'll confirm I want to run it. All right, so it's running. Happy green check mark. Now I can look at it on the Flow Runs page. But yeah, let's do that. So it's going to open a new tab. All right, it has succeeded. So it gives me a little status. And in fact, it will track every time this automation has run. So if you run this once a week, you'll see 7 days ago, 14 days ago, and sort of a newest to oldest list. This green is making me happy. I can click on it. Again, happy green. Tells me how long it took. Took a second to read all that data. If I click on this, it's going to give me not a whole lot of useful information, but enough context. It's going to again tell me where the file was, and that's going to say outputs. Like what did it read? So I'm gonna, normally, this isn't normal. Normally something you need, but it's good. It's good context to know. So I'm going to click this download link. It's going to give me this awful screen of computery programming language that is really hard to read. But buried in it, are this is the Excel data. This is what's in the sheet, and Power Automate has extracted it out, which is great. Except what do you do with it? All right, a computer read my Excel file. What problem is this solving for me? And that's fair. So let's go back to, all right, but it ran successfully. It's reading the data. Well, that's awesome. Let's go back to our Automate here. Done. So let's do something with it. One thing we could do is do this right. I can,
And
all right. I can email it to me. Let's do that. Let's email some Excel data. All right. So another component of Power Automate is that it can transform your data. It kind of sucks it all out of Excel and holds on to it, but can also manipulate it a little bit. It can move things around, or it can give you kind of a subset of that data. And that's a data operation. And what I want to do is right now, this has got every row, every column of this big Excel file, and of this big Excel file. I don't want all this data. Just want contract number, division, and county. Let's just do that. So I'm going to add a select data operation. I want to select some of the data. So here's my Excel. Here's purple, different color. That means it's a data operation. And it's going to say, what are we selecting it from? Well, we're selecting it from, here's our green. Here's all this Excel we just got. And this is what we want, value of our list items. All right. Let's add county. There's county. And see how it's kind of in that box in green? That's how you know it's really connected to it. All right. Then division. And contract number. Contract number. Luckily, I can search. There we go. Contract number. Wrong one. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to say it. So what we've just done here is we told Power Automate, let's query this data. Let's get it out of this Excel file. I just want 3 of the columns. So I've said from Excel, from that file, just give me these 3 columns. That's all I want. Let's do another
Patrick,
step. Yeah.
I have a question. So you can pull from one file. If the column structure is the same, could you pull from multiple files and merge that information together?
Yep, absolutely. And we won't cover it in this demo, but
Okay.
I will
I'm
give
thinking
you,
of a
I will
use
give you,
case.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so just, for you real quick, this insert a step, one of the options is a parallel branch. And what that will do is it will let you do, if you needed to query 4 or 5 files at the same time, you could use parallel branching to do that. And then once all the branches are done their thing, use something like a select data operation to munge it all together.
So like append them all into one kind of, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're thinking in thoughts like, I have a bunch of Excel files, I have data in each of them, and I want to merge them all. I know the columns will always be the same, like a lot of like system reports. Power Automate would be a great tool for that. But I've got 15 minutes, so we're not covering that today. All right, so I've selected all my data. Let's put it in an email. Let's get that email out of here. All right, Outlook is what we use for email. Again, I typed it in here. Outlook is blue. Here's my actions. Let's send an email. All right, this looks familiar. This looks like an email. I'm gonna send it to me. Then I'm gonna open Outlook first. All right. I'm gonna give it a subject. All right, and now I want to put something in the body of the email. I want to put the Excel in that email. So I clicked in the body. Now should be able to. All right, sharing my screen. There we go. Here's that select thing, the purple one I just did. Pick output. All right. So what did we just do? A lot of colorful rectangles here. We made a new Power Automate flow, our own automation. We identified the Excel file and the table in it that we want. We got a little advanced. We trimmed some of that data down to just the 3 columns that we want. So we did some transformation, and now we're going to send it to an email. This doesn't have to be you. Could be your boss. Could be, a service account, whatever. It doesn't have to be email. You could, have it go into another Excel file. You could have it go into a SharePoint list. You could certainly do something like that. Let's see what happens. Let's save this. And saving. And now I'm going to test it again. Let's see what happens. All right, manually, that's what we're doing. Testing. It's the first time today I've used Outlook. I'm going to click on that. And now I'm going to run it. Let's see what happens. Done. Oh, no. Yep, we'll just do done. All right. All right, so that was quick. That's good news. Flow ran successfully. That's what I like to see. Here's where all that data queried it. Let's see what this select thing does. All right, so this select thing is a data operation. And even though it's in kind of computery code here, you can see it's just the 3 columns that we wanted. County, division, contract number, over and over again. These are the values that were in the Excel file, which we have now freed from Excel. They exist here in this little select. And is the email that I sent, the subject I put in. Let's see if I've got mail. Hey, I've got mail. Hey, oh, that's gross. That's so gross. Look at all that. That's not something people can read. It's the data we want. Came into my email automatically. I didn't have to do anything. This data isn't formatted like normal people read. So we should do something about that. So we're gonna do one more quick transformation of this. All right. Oh, we're making progress. It's exciting. Let's do this. The nice part about doing this is if you get here, you can add steps in between. Power Automate puts these little plus signs here. So let's add another step. Let's clean up our data. I'm gonna add an action. And I'm gonna do another data operation. I see. All right, what I really want, instead of this gobbledygook here, is I want a table. I know Excel is in a table, but I just want the 3 columns that I've got. And I know I can do that because one of the data operations is making a table. I'm gonna pick create HTML table. All right, you don't have to know any HTML to do this. It's just the format that it puts it in automatically for you. All right, so I want to I want to take the data I filtered here in select and run it through here. So I clicked on it. It gave me this little fly out window. I'm going to pick output. All right, it's all purple. That's looking good. So the stuff, it's kind of like running stuff through a funnel. Excel is the the garden hose. Select is your little squirty thing there that when you're watering your plants, and then this is even less of that. That table, maybe that cleans it up. I don't know. The analogy's not holding together. All right, and then in my email, what I want in here instead is what's coming out of this create HTML table. I want it to look nice. So I click on body, and here's output again. All right, let's save it. Run it. Test it. Test it. Running. I've got mail, very exciting. All right, got mail. There we go. Look at that. It's on the table now. That's how normal people read things. All right, so what did we do there? I sent myself an email. Nobody should be patting themselves in the back for that. But it is exciting to be able to query that data out of there. Amy Holly, I saw your hand flash. Everything okay?
Disregard.
All right, cool. Amy and I work together, so just making sure. All right, so we've only got a few minutes left, so we're not going to hit 4 demos today, but we are going to do one other thing. And I'm going to go back to editing this and see if we can add a row to a table. I like that. So we're going to do a new flow. I'm going to pick an automated cloud flow. I want something else to trigger this flow. And I want to use, all right, we're going to use Microsoft Forms, which is a tool that y'all have probably seen. Generally, it looks kind of like this. It's easy for people to fill out well, whenever it loads. Microsoft form, you've probably been sent these. They're part of your Microsoft account. I made this form a while ago.
I was like, what?
Right. All right. So let's do that. So let's get data. Let's get something from this form and put it into an Excel file. So I made a new automated flow. When a new response is submitted, so I want to pick this one here. Do that. All right, so again, we're making a new Power Automate flow. And instead of running it manually, I'm saying every time someone fills out one of these forms, I want Power Automate flow to grab that text and put it into an Excel file for me. So let's see, pick a form. Here's the one I just made. Here's all the forms I've made. Here's one I built over here. All right, so I've identified it. My trigger is when someone adds a new one. Now I want to say, get the text out of it. So let's get this response. All right. Again, I pick my form, and now it's going to ask me which one, and it's going to be this response ID. Generally, when there's only one choice in there, it's probably the right thing to pick. All right. So what are we doing? We're waiting for someone to fill out one of these forms 24/7. Now let's write it into an Excel file. So how do we do that? I'm going to go back in here, and we're going to pick Excel. And we're going to add a row to a table. So now we're changing the file. Hopefully. Got that. We'll have to do. All right. All right, so I've got my Excel sheet here. Going to make it into a table. All right, made it into a table. There's my table design. Given my table a name. So now my Excel online file, which is stored in OneDrive, what I'm hoping is that it will add new rows at the end based on what people type in here. So let's do that. So again, just like we did last time, we've got to tell Power Automate where my file is. Mine's in OneDrive, but it could be SharePoint Online. Once again, I've got to find that folder that it's in. Pick the file. And just like before, got to identify the table. This one's got 2 tables in it. So a single Excel file can have 2 or more tables in it, and you can pick which one specifically you want to write to. All right, and now I've got to click this Show Advanced Options thing. And look, here are my columns that are in my Excel file. That's the one. I don't think that's the one. Here we go. So owner, location, ID, all these columns that are in here. Power Automate is smart enough to know it just reads right in, puts them here automatically for me. This is another reason we add, we make it a table that lets Power Automate say, oh, like you've got, all these columns. I know what to do with them. All right. And what these will give us is that this will let us write in text based on what was in this form. So owner, location, inspector, sample date. Let's do that. So owner, here's, see the little tiny Microsoft forms where there's owner, location, sample date, and that's good enough for now. All right. And you can leave them blank or add them. It doesn't make a difference. So what have we done? We have built Power Automate workflow that waits for someone to fill this out. And then hopefully, if everything works right, it's going to add that data to an Excel sheet. So let's save. Looking for green, no errors. Still saving. There we go. Nice and green. Let's test it like we do before. Manually. All right. And now Power Automate tells us to see it work now, submit a new response. And so it's waiting. I'm going to go back over here to my form. Add some data. Add a date. And I'm going to submit it. I'm going to submit this Microsoft form, which could be anonymous. It could be shared within your group. Whatever y'all's agency permit Microsoft Forms for, this is the tool you can use. If I come back over to Power Automate, it's already done. It's already, like, as soon as I hit that submit button, what happened? Power Automate automatically said, hey, there it is. I detected someone added a new form. Let me figure out what they typed in. Here's what I just typed in. And now it's telling me, but I'm going to check that it added this data to an Excel file. Hopefully the one we selected. So let's go. Okay, look. Hey, there it is. That's cool. So here we are, row 235. What have I done? I've updated an Excel file with a totally different tool using Microsoft Forms. Now, this could have been a SharePoint list. It could have been any a myriad of other tools that can take data and add them to your Excel sheet. And so, no, Excel is not a database, except when sometimes it is. That's what we've done here. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're coming up on 11:50, which is when the bell dings for me on this. I encourage y'all, if this is something that's interesting to you, explore it for sure. There's a ton of materials, and in the slides, they'll send the slides out and the videos out. More to read, more to explore. Talk to your agency, Microsoft 365 folks. Let them know you're interested. Let them know, maybe you want to, get their guidance, their take on it. Maybe you want to prototype something first and then meet with them. Encourage you to explore, and you don't have to do them together. Like Excel Online solves a problem for you. Dive into it. It's great on its own.